The tail.
The tail. Now that sounds gross, but why? It's the first path. You're starting something difficult, and it's something that is totally different than what you're doing. You want to start and get a success pattern as soon as you can.
You need a victory.
You need a victory. Amen, brother. Go for this first. But look at it. Go for this first. And when you have paid this off, the money that you are paying to pay this off, you go where?
Up there.
Right up there. Get a victory thing going. It's totally emotional. Mathematically, Susie's right. But emotionally, people gravitate to victory and success. I say door number 2.
Self-motivating is what you're saying.
It's very motivating. Get rid of those debts as fast as you can. You become responsible. Don't get overbearing or passionate to the point that you're hurting other things.
It's just like working out 80. Some people go crazy at first instead of the
Yeah.
eternal solution.
You want to stay sane in this deal. Number 3, you got your emergency fund, right? Well, as you are now not using your consumer debt to pay, or using your budget to pay off consumer debt, you start to up your savings and have anywhere from 3 to 6 months of savings of your income. 3 to 6 months. 8, whatever. I go for 3 to 6. Whatever. Just make sure it's more than 1,000. Why? Because what happens if you're sick or injured or you get laid off and you need money to still pay for bills? Build it up. And it's the net what you earn each month. I earn $1,000 net each month, Gord. Great. You want $3,000. I earn $6,000. It's 3 times that. Yes, sir.
Sorry, Gord, that's a pretty big sum. Like, where would you hold that money that it's going to be accessible and not just making a minimal interest rate?
Okay, here's the thing. This is for cases of emergency as well. So you're not necessarily going to yet get into a portfolio yet. I say the checking account.
Really?
Yes, sir, because it's for emergencies. Because if you go and start putting it into a mutual fund and the market goes down 10 or 15%, that's expensive loss, especially at this point of the game.
So you wouldn't put it into a TFSA?
No, I would not. Well, you put it in TFSA, you could, but the thing is, you don't want to put in anything risky. I personally would say at this time, keep it in the bank for now.
Yeah, because like I just have like a high interest savings account, but it's completely liquid.
And under that situation, you want because you want it accessible. Okay, because if you pull out money in TFSA, then you kind of used up your room too. We can use it for later on. And listen, we're starting to talk, this is a startup process, all right? I'm not saying eternal till you die. This is just a startup process. Get the funds in your bank account because the whole purpose of this is that you're not spending on debt, you're going on cash-only basis. Because what happens if you have to buy a car? Wouldn't you like to buy a car paying cash?
Yes.
That's how this is done. On the average side, think about this as a pie chart. On the average of most Canadians, about 33 or 30% is used to pay taxes of your gross income. Got that? About 37 to 38% is on debt today. Total debt. Remember I talked to you about that? You got 30 plus 33 to 37. How much is that in total of that pie? 30 and 37 is 67% of your income is based on 2 things, taxes and debt payments. You get to live off of 1/3 of that slice of pie for food, clothing, hydro, gasoline. That's it. You're not going to have much of an existence trying to live off that 1/3. You want to make it that you're paying 1/3 to the government, and there are ways to even reduce that by putting money into avoidance plans like RSPs and tax-free savings accounts and such. But you want to turn that 1/3 that you are paying to debt into living, and into providing for living, and to working to get you into a cash-only basis. And this is how it's done. So you're increasing your savings. Then you're upping the game on the retirement savings. Most retirement plans are like a matching plan. 2% that you pay and 2% your employment pays, and we're going go and kick it up even higher and put 15% to retirement plans. And where did that money come from? From the stuff that you're not paying in consumer debt. And if you reached your increase your savings in 2 or 3 months or 6 months, pardon me, and you're done that, now you can go and up your game on retirement savings. And when you put money into a retirement savings plan in RSP, what do you get when you put money into it? What do you get back?
Interest.
You get interest, but what else?
Tax savings.
Return, what, in the form of what? Somebody said it?
Tax savings.
Tax savings. How come? Because you get a tax deduction. You give it through the church or charity, you get a tax deduction slip. Same thing with an RSP. And the RSP deduction for bang for the buck is the highest deduction and creates the highest return of tax returns and tax savings, tax credits, than any other form. Now, you know you can't spend it. Well, you can, but then you get taxed on it. But that's not what it's for, because it's for retirement.
Would you suggest that if you're in a defined benefit type of pension, that you would still follow that principle, just in case, because like in the case of Sears, where all those pensions are gone.
I know. I would say yes.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, if you maxed out your RSP contributions, tax-free savings account. Got it? Because you can use that for the purpose of retirement as well. You don't get a deduction, but you get to go and have it in for future use. The 3 to 6 months is for stuff that may come while you're living to grow to retirement. This here is for our RSP and tax-free savings account. If you have a defined benefit plan, even if you have a defined contribution plan, and you've maxed out or gone as far, I like having non-locked-in monies as an element in my retirement plan as well. Fair enough? If you have kids, RESP, Registered Education Savings Plans, set money aside for that. Whatever you put in, you get a grant back, by the way. Something to consider for that purpose as well. Set a portion for there too. You have, number 6, pay the mortgage off early. Just like I told you. And when you have monies that you're not applying into any consumer debt, and you will, remember I told you 2/3 of it is going towards debt. Well, if you don't have any debt, there's 15% to retirement. The balance you can start to go to the children's education and to pay off the mortgage early so that you can have a mortgage-free home. It makes so much difference. When my mortgage was paid off, you can't even imagine the amount of budget I had, the freedom I had. It was redonkulous. It was amazing. Then Dave Ramsey says, now you can be generous. Now you can give. Here's where I'm different. You ready? Start off. Just a moment here. Let's carry on. First off, whatever you were paying into here per month, if it was $80, take 10% and give to the Lord. That's $8 a month? Yeah. Really? Yeah. You want to start giving as a regular part of your life. And this is how you do it. $8 a month? Oh, if you can do 10, go crazy. If you can do 20, knock yourself out. I just want you to start giving and doing it on a consistent basis. Oh, so I can do that for the rest of my life? No, you don't. You don't get away with that. Because once you get that $1,000 thing, then whatever you weren't paying here, you're going to go to consumer debt, right? We talked about that? Well, whatever you're doing to pay the consumer debt, which will get larger every time you pay off a loan, you take 10% of whatever you're paying here to start going towards God's kingdom. Is that going to be $8 a month now? You get the sort of the principle of what I'm doing here? And just keep it at 10%. Start it off. And then when you've done with your increased savings, whatever you're going to apply to here, whatever you're going to go to retirement and children's education, as each step goes on, you're going to up the game because you're going to put 10% of whatever those things are until that's taken care of. And when you get your mortgage paid off, whatever that was, that you paid into it, you take 10%. And then you just don't stop there. Don't leave it at 10%. Just go and let the Lord give you the grace of your heart. And when you see the affluence that happens, especially in these areas here, when you start to set and put money aside for tax-free savings accounts or others, look at it and say, God, give me a door to put this money to. Give me an opportunity to take this and apply it. Now, the giving starts at the church, ladies and gentlemen. That's what I'm always about. The giving starts at the church. That's your spiritual family. And the church, by the way, did not bring me here to do this. Okay? This is not a scheme to try and get money out of your back pocket so that this is going to coffers at Calvary Baptist or your local church. That's not what I'm here for. This is an absolute passion that I have, is to support your local church. And then anything up and above that, you give to God's glory through things like endangered kids, missions, chaplaincy, compassion, good things. That's where this whole process starts. This is the fulfillment. You're not getting all this wealth so you can go and use it for your own self. Because who owns the money? God does. And what's it for? For Him. For Him. Do you get that? All surplus is for the Lord. All surplus is for the Lord. And I'm just going to carry on here because we have a thing called a foundation that we use, that we allow people that if you want to give extra, we can give it to fulfillments that are your passions. That places like this, because people who give to people, like places like kids in the Congo or in Cambodia that need dental care and facial reconstruction, women as well, women in prostitution here, refugees. This is the works that we've been doing in our fellowship. Because of people like you that have given and said, that's God's stuff, that's His money, and I want to give Him the glory, and I want it to go and advance His kingdom. And this is what it's all about here. And let me tell you something, folks. You can't outgive God. Every one of those that are generous that I've had, they have never been able to say to me, I gave too much. God will never, I have never had one person say to me, I'm bankrupt because I gave too much money to the Lord. Now, I'm not a prosperity preaching guy here. But I will tell you, he talks about in Malachi the following. He says, how do you rob me? You rob me. How do we rob you? Well, you rob me in tithes and offerings. Take your tithes and offerings to the storehouse of God. And then he says this, test me in this. Test me in this. Now, this is the same God that said as Christ to Satan when he asked Satan, when Satan said, come off and jump off that pinnacle, because the angels will charge and bring you up. He was tempting Christ. And Christ's answer was, thou shalt not tempt or test the Lord thy God. That's biblical. But here's God saying, you can test me, but in this thing. Give. Test me on this. And just watch if I don't open the floodgates of heaven and blessings come upon you that you can't even handle. And it's not financial only. It's peace. It's joy. It's fulfillment. It is compassion. It's everything the heavenly treasure stuff. You get a blessing that you just can't imagine. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the reason why I'm teaching this class. So you can experience the joy of blessing and giving. Bottom line. Absolute. Whatever your passions are. Everybody has their own passions. I've got mine. Mine happens to be education. So I support our seminaries and Bible colleges. I'm on the board at Heritage College, for example. Everybody has their passions. I am helping you to fulfill and connect that passion to make it so that you can do that and enjoy the blessing of it. So that's my story for today, ladies and gentlemen. You've been writing stuff, you've been answering questions. Colette, thank you for that. I appreciate you. I actually have a transcript of, because I know you were writing notes, but I actually have a transcript of my script. because there's stuff that I just couldn't talk about, but I want you to look at anyways. There's material there. If you need help, we can certainly help connect with you. Look up Dave Ramsey's material online. You can also connect with, if you need help, I can connect you with Canadians Against Poverty. You may have heard of that. It's an organization in Canada. They're based in, they've got a work in Huntsville at Riverside Baptist. No, not Riverside. What's the other in Huntsville? Faith. They have a relationship with Canadians Against Poverty. They will come and they will help you individually to go and help manage your expenses and budget as well. But with the stuff that you did, you've got enough to go and go crazy and have fun. That's my story for today, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for listening to me. Are there any questions that you may have while it's there?
What was that organization called that works with women in prostitution?
Bridge North.
Okay.
You can look them up.
Yeah.
And there is out west, they have the same thing called Living in Dignity.
Okay.
80% of the prostitutions out there are from Indigenous women. And they're being dragged in. Many of them are runaways. Sorry to do this. Many of them are runaways because they've been abused in the reserve. So they go to this big city to escape. And guess who's there waiting for them? The pimps. And they get them drugged up. They get them hooked up. They love them. And they care for them. And they give them drugs. And then it's time to pay off. And then they rape them like crazy, which is a horrible thing to say. I'm sorry, but there's no other way to say it. And then they're in it. And there's no way to escape. We got women that are helping them get out of it. But Crystal Dinan is her name, Cassandra Dinan, pardon me, and it's Bridge North, and you can go online. And they love the support. They love the support. Great girls, great ladies, awesome. Any other questions?
Where did you get your shirt?
Sam Burgina's in London. I was a constant white shirt, red tie, dark suit guy. And then my wife took me to this place that she had heard about. I get passes that look at this and saying, those batteries are included in that shirt. It's what she said. But you know what? I get guys that say that. I get one say, I like the shirt. So I'm sorry, it is what it is.
No, I think it's cool.
Thank you. Yeah. I could have worn my checker one. No, that's what, never mind. I'm embarrassed now.
I just wanted to say that I've always said that I'm not a microwave, I'm a slow cooker. So that's why I don't need instant gratification. So I don't have any debt, never have.
Well done.
Because I'm content to just be where I am and live. Because I don't want to, I see a lot of heartache and stuff like that. I've witnessed a lot. And it's like, I'd rather live in my basement apartment with my little bugs. They don't take up much room.
Yeah.
Than to be living in a mansion and be in debt.
My wife said she had a white dishwasher for years, and that was me, and a dishcloth and a bottle of detergent. Okay. I'm not a chrome kind of guy. Okay. And eventually we were able to afford it.
Yeah.
And we paid cash with it. Do you get the picture? I'm sorry for being rehashing it. Get to be a cash-only basis so that you're not using it for affluence. Here's one final trap, and I'm talking about in church people. There comes a point in time in giving that the giving becomes a right, not a privilege, and a ministry. If you ever get to that point of affluence that you're giving, and you use the giving to steer the church in certain directions, if you use it as a weapon or a manipulative means to make the direction go your way, or you say you do this my way or I'm taking my money out, God have mercy on you. Do not do that. Do not do that. When you give, that's it. Hands off. Do you hear me? When you give, hands off. Because God's the accountant on this one. Let Him take care of it. Just a word of warning. You do not want to do that, because people that I've seen do it, they do not end well. Please. I say it in all love. And those days will come if you do this stuff. I'm done. Thank you very much. The stuff of that there, God bless you. And Mark, thank you for allowing me to be here today.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
All right, so again, copies of my script are back there. Take Whatever you want, there's extra budget sheets, take some as you will, and have fun with it as well. Have a great weekend.
No, it's good.